You know what's funny? Most men think they lose a woman because they didn't do enough. Not enough attention, not enough love, not enough effort. But the truth? Men don't lose women because they do too little. They lose them because they do too much of the wrong things. And the worst part? Nobody warns you about this. Because on the surface, these things look like love. They look like care. They look like being a good man. But behind the scenes, they slowly destroy your value. And once your value drops, respect disappears, attraction fades, and suddenly, you're the one being ignored. So today, I'm going to show you the top 5 things men should never do for a woman, if they don't want to regret it later. And trust me, number 5, that's where most men completely lose themselves. Before we dive deeper, a quick message. If you've been learning from my videos and you want to support this work, you can subscribe to me on Facebook with a paid membership, send stars, or join my YouTube channel's paid community. Your support helps me create more powerful content for you, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. All right, now let's continue. 1. Never make her your entire world. At the beginning, it feels right, doesn't it? You meet her, you like her, and suddenly, she becomes your priority. You cancel plans, you stop seeing your friends, your goals slow down, because now, she is your focus. Sounds romantic? It's actually the fastest way to lose her. Because when a man makes a woman his entire world, he unknowingly tells her, I have nothing better than you. And that's where attraction starts dying. Ever noticed how people value what's rare, not what's always available? Exactly. When you're always there, always replying instantly, always adjusting your life around her, you stop being a challenge. And without challenge, there's no excitement. Without excitement, there's no attraction. Think about it this way. When you started pursuing her, you had momentum, a life happening around you, things going on that didn't involve her. And that energy, that was magnetic. She could feel that you were someone going somewhere, that your time meant something, that being with you was a choice you made from strength, not desperation. But the moment you placed her at the center of everything, that energy died, and she felt it. Maybe she couldn't explain it. Maybe she couldn't put it into words, but something shifted. Suddenly you felt less interesting. A high-value man has a life, a mission, a purpose bigger than any relationship. He has friendships he protects, goals he's actively chasing, a version of himself he's constantly building. And ironically, that's what makes women stay. Not the sacrifice, not the devotion, not the you're my everything. It's the fullness of a man who doesn't need her to feel complete. That's attractive. That's rare. That's what she actually wants beside her. 2. Never overexplain yourself. This one is subtle, but deadly. You say something, she reacts. Maybe she's upset. And what do most men do? They start explaining. No, you don't understand. That's not what I meant. Let me explain properly. And the more she questions, the more you try to justify yourself. Sounds logical, right? Wrong. Because over-explaining doesn't make you look honest. It makes you look unsure. Confidence doesn't need paragraphs. It needs clarity. When a man stands by his words calmly, without trying to convince anyone, that's power. But when he keeps explaining, proving, defending, it signals something else. I need your approval. And here's what most men don't realize. When you over-explain, you're not clearing up confusion. You're handing over power. Every time you scramble to justify a decision, every time you backtrack because she raised an eyebrow, every time you talk more than necessary to make sure she's not upset, you teach her that pressure works. And she'll use it again. Not because she's manipulative, but because you trained her to. The most attractive response when someone challenges you unfairly? A calm pause. Steady eye contact. 2 words, maybe 3, and then you move on. No drama, no apology, no lecture, just quiet confidence. That's what unsettles people who expect you to fold. That's what commands respect without demanding it. 3. Never tolerate disrespect, even small ones. Most men don't lose respect overnight. It happens slowly. A sarcastic comment here, a little attitude there, a joke that crosses the line. And instead of addressing it, they ignore it because they don't want conflict. They don't want to seem too serious, so they laugh it off. But here's the truth. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. The first time you ignore disrespect, you're not keeping peace, you're setting a pattern. And patterns become habits. Habits become identity. And suddenly, she doesn't even see you as someone she needs to respect. Now here's where men get this wrong. Addressing disrespect doesn't mean explosive reactions. It doesn't mean arguments. It doesn't mean ultimatums on day one. It means being the kind of man who doesn't let things slide silently. It means saying something simple, calm, direct. That's not okay with me. And then letting the silence do the rest. Because a man who reacts with anger is easy to dismiss. But a man who responds with stillness and clarity, that's a different thing entirely. That's someone who knows his worth without having to announce it. And that kind of man, people don't test twice. A man who values himself doesn't overreact, but he also doesn't stay silent. He addresses things calmly, directly, without emotion. Because respect isn't something you beg for, it's something you enforce, quietly. 4. Never be available all the time. Let me guess, you reply fast. You pick up every call. You're always there when she needs you. You think that shows reliability. And yes, it does. But too much of it kills attraction. Because availability removes mystery. If she already knows you'll always be there, what is she supposed to wonder about? Nothing. And what people don't wonder about, they don't chase, they don't value, they don't think about. There's a word for this in psychology. Intermittent reinforcement. When something is unpredictable, when you're not quite sure when you'll hear back, when you wonder, is he busy? What's he doing? The mind fixates. Not on people who are predictable, not on people who are always there, but on people who keep you slightly guessing. You don't need to play games, but you do need balance. A man who has options, a life, priorities, isn't always instantly available. He finishes what he's working on. He responds when it's right for him. He's present when he shows up. Because showing up isn't automatic, it's chosen. And that slight unpredictability, that's not coldness, that's not distance. That's just a man who has a life worth living. And that is exactly what keeps attraction alive long after the honeymoon phase fades. 5. Never lose yourself trying to keep her. This is the biggest mistake, and the most dangerous one. Because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly. You change how you speak, you change how you act, you adjust your opinions, your boundaries, just to keep her happy, just to avoid losing her. But here's the irony. The more you try to keep her, the more you lose yourself. And once you lose yourself, you lose the very thing she was attracted to in the first place. Confidence, individuality, strength, everything fades. And now, you're not the man she chose. You're just someone trying not to be left, and that energy is the biggest attraction killer of all. Here's something most men never hear. Women are highly attuned to authenticity. They can feel when a man is being real and when he's performing. When you start shrinking yourself to fit her preferences, when you start agreeing with things you don't believe, when you start burying your instincts to avoid friction, she feels it. Maybe not consciously, but something in her registers. He's not being himself. And the man who caught her attention in the first place? He had edges, opinions, a way of seeing the world that was his own. That's what drew her in. Not compliance, not agreeableness, not a man who would mold himself into whatever she needed. A woman doesn't want a man she can control. She wants a man who chooses her, not needs her. There's a massive difference between those two things. A man who needs her tolerates anything, accepts everything, disappears into the relationship. A man who chooses her still has standards, still has a life, still walks away if something isn't right. And that second man, she thinks about him, even when he's not around. So if you've been doing any of these, don't panic. Awareness is power, because most men never even realize where they went wrong. They just feel the distance growing, the respect fading, the connection slowly going cold, and they pour more effort into the same broken approach. More attention, more sacrifice, more of the exact things that created the problem. But now you do, and that changes everything. The goal isn't to become cold. The goal isn't to stop caring. The goal is to care without losing yourself, to give without overgiving, to love without lowering your value. Because here's the real truth underneath all of this. Attraction isn't just chemistry, it's respect. And respect starts with how you see yourself. When you know your worth, when you protect your time, When you hold your standards quietly and firmly, you become someone different, not someone who plays games, not someone who withholds love to seem powerful, but someone grounded, someone solid, someone who a woman looks at and thinks, I don't want to lose this. That's not manipulation. That's not strategy. That's just what it looks like when a man genuinely respects himself. And the moment you get there, everything starts falling into place. The relationship changes, the dynamic shifts, the energy in the room feels different when you walk in, because you're no longer operating from fear, you're operating from value. And value is the most attractive thing a man can carry. If this video made you think, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And don't stop here. Check out the other videos on this channel for more real truths, psychology, and insights most people will never tell you. Because once you see things clearly, you can never go back to being blind. And that is where your power begins.